in who we are, the spirit of building, the spirit of developing, creating, right? Letting that inner creator in you kind of grow, because I think that there's something about the job culture that kills that. And you tend to become so committed to things that already exist that you lose the imagination of seeing all the things that could exist. And the thing about that is the things that you pour into are the things that become more real. That's why you got to be careful about even the things you think about and the way you process your energy. Because if there's something negative or scary or bad, and all you're doing is thinking about that negative, scary, or bad thing, then you are going to make it more real. If there's something very positive, the same thing is true in the positive direction. So what I realize is that the best way to give my goals and dreams the greatest possibility of survival is to pour everything I can into that. And the hard part is that when you pour into things, you don't know if it's actually going to work. You're pouring into this thing, you're starting this little business and it feels kind of raggedy, or you're taking care of, some child, and you don't know what that child's going to grow into, but you do it because you're supposed to or whatever. But the thing is, over time, I've realized just how much gets lost from the Black community because we're doing exactly what our ancestors did on the plantation. The difference is that you're not on the farm plantation, you're on the corporate plantation. So on the corporate plantation, we're pouring into the dreams that were created by other people. We're pouring into companies that were built by others, and that makes their dreams more real. Their dreams become more real, and then our dreams kind of die, because when you're not putting time into something, then it's definitely going to fail. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think I thought about that today when I saw this interesting clip where there was a Black man who works for the Dallas Cowboys, and he was really excited because he gets to draft his own son. His son's name was Deuce something. And I was really happy for the father. He was in tears. Everybody was clapping because he gets to draft his own son to the Cowboys. I mean, what kind of dream is that? That's amazing, right? I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan, so I totally get it. But I was thinking about that, and I said, this is so fascinating that this man's dream has been fulfilled. His son's dream has been fulfilled, that they both get to be Dallas Cowboys and they get to work together, which I think is awesome. But it's interesting because Jerry Jones effectively almost like becomes their economic god. He becomes the god because he gets to be the person that can snap his fingers and make your dreams come true. They can't make Jerry Jones' dreams come true necessarily, unless maybe he can help him win a Super Bowl or something. But Jerry Jones can decide, tomorrow he could say, you know what, the dream is dead, forget it. We're going to cut you from the team. Or he can say, I want to really make the dream come true by giving you an $80 million contract. And so we go to church and we pray. And we pray, dear God, please give me more money. Dear God, please give me more opportunity. Dear God, please help me get a better job. And then the white man comes along and he becomes the God. He becomes the God that gives you that money. He gives you that job. He gives you that opportunity. And what I want you to tap into is your own inner economic God, where you understand that these are also dreams you can create for yourself. So the same way that this father was ecstatic about his son going to play for the Dallas Cowboys, there were Black men and Black women who owned a sports league, and they had their own version of the Dallas Cowboys, the Negro leagues, things like that. There was even a Black version of NASCAR, where they had the ability to make dreams come true. So when you are the boss, and this is where I want your children to understand the differential here. And I talk about this a lot in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It's on Amazon if you want to get a copy. And by the way, I'm doing a 2-day training on the book in Dallas on May 19th. So if you want to come down to Dallas, just come on by. Just go to boycewatkins.com. You get the information there. But the thing I want your kids to tap into is to understand that I don't want them to be people that just pursue their dream. I want them to be people who understand what it takes to become a dream maker. I don't want them to be kings and queens. I want them to be king and queen makers. If you look at entertainment, we have the celebrities, and then behind the scenes, you have the people who make the celebrities. I watched the Whitney Houston documentary, and I promise you, we're going to get back to the stock market stuff in a second, but this is all about investing. All this is related to investing. It's related to wealth building. It's related to deciding what you're going to do with this time you have on this earth. I watched the Whitney Houston documentary. Did anybody else watch that documentary? It's called I Want to Dance with Somebody. I think that's what it's called. So in this Whitney Houston documentary, Whitney is in the church singing her black butt off. Her mother, Sissy, has, some experience as a singer as well. I think she won a Grammy or something. I didn't know this. She was very talented too. And Sissy wants her dream to come true. So she arranges, at least according to the film, for Clive Davis to come and see Whitney sing. And Clive sees her sing. The rest is history. She knocks his socks off, and he instantly signs her to a contract. So now her dream has become true. So now she's sitting in office with this white Jewish man. And this Jewish man is the economic god of Whitney Houston and her family. He's the one that signs contracts and goes and gets financing to allow Whitney to become the Whitney Houston that we know and love. Without Clive Davis's involvement, without him signing the check, without him making the authoritative decision to give her an opportunity, there is no Whitney Houston. There is no I Want to Dance with Somebody. There is no the movie The Bodyguard. There is no, everything you know about Whitney would not exist. In fact, there's probably 10,000 other potential Whitney Houstons that you would love just as much as Whitney, just as much as Michael Jackson, just as much as Prince, but you never heard of them because some executive decided to not create that opportunity. They decided not to make their dream come true. So if you pay attention now, how did these two cross paths? How does this black girl from the hood, Whitney Houston, cross paths with this gay Jewish man, Clive Davis? And that's Hollywood. Being gay and Jewish is big in Hollywood. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just kind of what the culture is, right? Well, they cross paths. Whitney got there by going to the church and singing and becoming extremely talented at what she does. Black people, that's what we do. We're excellent producers of talent. We produce the next LeBron. We produce the next Whitney. We produce the next Michael. We produce the next NFL star, right? Clive Davis never sang in the church. Clive Davis can't sing. Clive Davis is not a performer at all. You know what Clive Davis did? He went to Harvard Law School and he learned business. He also learned banking and how to raise capital. He learned that the real power in entertainment is not in being the celebrity. The real power in entertainment is being the person who is the financial backer of the celebrity. So effectively, what I want your children to do, for your kids that are as talented enough to become the next Whitney Houston, that's fine. I support that 100%. But there's a very small number of opportunities there. And what it does is it creates a huge imbalance of power and control. White people, Jewish people, wealthy people, Hollywood types, they have an overwhelming amount of power relative to the person who might be the next Whitney Houston. If one person doesn't take the opportunity, they go find another one. Jonathan Majors right now is being pushed out of Hollywood. They're going to find another Jonathan Majors. He'll be the other it guy. They'll put him on the cover of some magazines and you'll fall in love with him just like you fell in love with Jonathan Majors. I think that it's better to go around the back if you really want to get the power. It's easier to get your child through Harvard Law School or make them into a business owner than it is to make them into the next Whitney Houston. Whitney is 1 in a billion, damn near. Clive Davis is about 1 in 50, maybe 1 in 20, in terms of what fundamental skills he had that allowed him to do what he did. Now, he became iconic in his own right? He's great at what he does. But if you look at just the fundamentals, what did he have to be able to do to be in the position that he's in? He had to learn. He went to law school. He also learned business. And he figured out as a business owner how to go raise some capital. So rather than looking to try to become the next Whitney, he said, I'm just going to own a piece of 10 Whitney Houstons, and his family's probably worth $1 billion right now. It's much, much easier for you to prepare your child to be a millionaire business owner than it is for you to prepare your child to be a millionaire basketball player or millionaire football player or millionaire singer. Do you get what I'm saying? Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. And I'm talking about investing, and we're gonna get to the stocks. You guys asked me about some stocks and stuff. I'm gonna answer all those questions in a moment. But I want you to understand that because the investments that you make in your life are not just the most important ones are the investments of your children, the investments of your time, the investment of your energy and your labor. What you pour into becomes more real. So if you're running around getting these kids doped up on the fantasy of becoming the next LeBron, 99% of them, the waste product is massive. The amount of waste, toxic waste, is massive. When I say toxic waste, I mean that you're getting one LeBron, but you got literally 9,000, 10,000 other kids who have no other marketable skill, no other way to make money except basketball, because they invested everything trying to be the next LeBron. So imagine if you spent 99% of your paycheck on the lottery. Like that's what it becomes. It's like, imagine if all of us said, okay, we're going to invest in our future. What are we going to do? We're all going to go spend 99% of our paycheck on lottery tickets. Would that be a good investing strategy? Would that make sense to you? The answer is no. That's what Black people do. That's what we do. We invest 99% of our $1 trillion in capital. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your capital, your human capital, your children. You invest 99% of your children, or maybe 80%. I don't know what the number is. It's way too big. And they're all invested in the pipe dream, in the lottery. And then 99.9% of them lose the lottery and end up with nothing. And that 0.1% that wins gets marketed all over the world. They did that in the movie The Hunger Games. If you go watch The Hunger Games with a critical eye, you'll see that's what they did in The Hunger. That's how the system controlled the masses, is they would allow everybody to compete for one spot. They would all kill each other, and then one person would win. And the one person that won, they would market that person to the whole world as some sort of template, as some sort of benchmark. So when you're watching the NBA playoffs, believe me, there's 10, 20 million Black boys watching the playoffs thinking I'm going to be like that guy on the court, without having any understanding of the fact that there are 10,000 other boys that are competing for that same spot right now. Right. So if you ask me, I think there's much more potential in the Clive Davis route than there is in the Whitney Houston route. And most of y'all's kids can't sing like Whitney Houston. It's hard. She's good. She was amazing. Right. But most of your kids, if you put that buckle on their ass, and you really push them, they can be every bit as capable as a Clive Davis. Most of your kids are smart enough that if you put them through law school and taught them how to study, they're going to get through law school. If you teach them how to start a business, they can learn how to start a business. So choose the easier route. That's my point. Choose the easier route. All right. So let's hop back in. Let's talk about some stocks. Y'all sent me some questions. Let's see here. Yeah. So I'm for those of you that were asking, yeah, we're going to be in Dallas May 19th. Doing a 2-day Black Wealth training camp. You can get the information at boycewatkins.com. Also, we were talking about AI stocks before. I have a list of AI stocks that I know are going to do well, or that I believe strongly in the future. Feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. You can pick up that list. It's right there. And these are just companies that you want to get positioned early, so that when these companies start taking off, you're going to be there already. And the takeoff has already started to occur. Right now, the biggest factors in terms of the stock market are things like the debt ceiling. If these idiots in Congress can't figure out how to get along and resolve the debt ceiling issue, the government's expected to run out of money in 1 month. They thought that Goldman Sachs had estimated that the government was going to have until mid-January before they run out of money. It turns out those estimates are wrong. They're actually going to run out of money around June 1st, June 2nd, June 10th, around that, before the 10th, that kind of thing. So that could be disruptive for markets. There's a lot of factors that would occur. The government would start defaulting on its debts. On my Instagram, on the Real Boyce Watkins, I put up a list of all the things the government wouldn't be able to pay, like veterans benefits and things like that, Social Security payments and stuff like that. With once they run out of cash. So I don't know why they put themselves in this terrible financial position, but that's where things are right now. All right. So what I'm going to do is answer some of your questions that you submitted before. If you want to leave a question for me to answer first, just go to log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com, and you can leave your question for me. So some of you have already left questions, so I'm going to answer those first. Mr. Jan Jasmine says, have you heard of a program called Fed Now? Here's the link. Okay, so Fed Now. Yeah, let's look up Fed Now. let me just tell you, I want you to be real careful about conspiracy theories, because when the anybody seen saw the news story where the guy that created Cash App got killed, and then suddenly everyone's sharing this post saying that he died at the same time they created FedNow, and that the Federal Reserve had him killed. Or I guess the insinuation is that the Federal Reserve wanted him dead so they could take over Cash App or something, almost like it's a drug dealer fantasy, like we're taking over your block. Just be real careful about stuff like that, because conspiracy theories are really compelling and really interesting, but there was no evidence to that effect. And in fact, when they did the investigation, it turned out that this guy was stabbed by a guy that I think was his friend at one point. And now I guess now they're not friends anymore. So they got into an argument. Next thing you know, the guy's dead. I think that when it comes to financial conspiracy theories, they're very entertaining, but ultimately what it kind of does is it creates like this weird distrust where you have people that won't invest and won't do what's best for themselves because they don't trust any of the institutions. And all the while, you're going to end up losing a lot of money. So if you look up FedNow, it says it's a service that will enable financial institutions to deliver end-to-end faster payment services to their customers. Will FedNow replace PayPal or Cash App? The Fed has made clear that FedNow is not intended to kill or replace other money transfer options like Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. The benefits of FedNow basically are faster payments with instant transaction settlement, 24/7 availability, immediate confirmation of the payment for both sender and recipient. Okay, how will it work? FedNow acts as the clearing service for financial institutions' transactions so that they can provide immediate end-to-end payments to customers. The key difference between this service and the Fed's current system is that FedNow will be online 24/7, processing transactions in real time. So that's FedNow. That's what it does. I don't think it's designed to be a PayPal killer. Gary Addy says, I'm now enrolled in the course and was wondering, when does the actual investing start? It's already started. Every week, if you log in at the theblackstockmarketprogram.com, I give you guys a list of stocks called What Dr. Boyce is Buying. Every single Sunday, I find this list. I curate this list of stocks based on my own research, things that my family's invested in. So just log in, or you can just log in or you can log in at theblackbusinessschool.com, THE, don't forget the THE, theblackbusinessschool.com, and you can actually find What Dr. Boyce is Buying. And I literally have probably 100 lists of stocks that I've selected based on the research that I've done. So that's where, so you start investing on your own. There are videos and trainings on how to get started with investing, how to buy your first share of stock. Also at boycewatkins.com, you can find the $5 a day investing plan, which I'm trying to get everybody to do. It's very easy to do. It's very simple. All you have to do is invest in maybe, if you want to make it simple, pick one of the mutual funds that will give you access to the S&P 500. Two of my favorites are VOO, V Victor, Oscar, VOO, and SPY, just like SPY, SPY. If you put at least $35 a week per child in that fund and your children are young, even if they're not young, but you got to give yourself about 30 years for this to really work out on a high level. You put $35 per week per child in there. All you got to do is do it on autopilot and don't sell what you buy. If you do that and you hold it for 30 years, your children will have somewhere close to $250,000 theoretically, based on history. If someone had done that for you, it's 2023 right now at the time of this recording. So if someone had done this for you starting in 1993, you would have about $250,000 liquid in your bank account. So I kind of want you to consider and imagine how different your life would have been. What would your life be like right now if you had $250,000 liquid? Like, you could open up your stock portfolio and there's $250,000 in there, right? Would you be able to quit your job? Would you be able to buy that house you've been wanting to get? Would you be able to start that business? Would you be able to make moves, buy the multifamily property or whatever it is you're trying to do? So most of you didn't have anybody that did that for you, maybe because they didn't know the things that you know, because we're talking. But I really encourage you to do that for your kids. Even do it for your unborn kids. And if you really, and remember, I pick $5 a day because that's easy. $5 a day, almost anybody can afford, because anybody who can afford Popeye's chicken can afford to do this, right? So that's why I set the number low. But really, some of you are doing better financially. So $10 a day, $15, $20 a day, in my view, is even better. So if you did say $20 a day, which is approximately $140 a week, which becomes approximately $560 a month, which is less than the average car note on a new car right now. I think the average car note right now is approaching between $700 and $1,000 a month or something. So if your kids are more valuable to you than a car note, then what that does is that multiplies everything by 4. So instead of it being $250,000 after a 30-year period, you're talking about $1 million. So your child is a liquid million, not just a millionaire. They're a cash money liquid millionaire. Those are two different things. A paper millionaire is someone where if you liquidated everything that they own, it would be worth $1 million. A cash money liquid millionaire is someone who can open up their bank balance and see $1 million in value that they could actually extract at any moment. Those are two different levels, two different tiers. Okay, so let's keep going. Mark Irving says Coinbase has an earnings call May 4th and is estimated to be off by $1.36 per share. How will this affect the stock price? And will that impact selling covered calls? Okay, yeah, so that's more of a question more so for the prime class, but since we're not in prime class now, I'll go ahead and answer it now. Okay, so here's the thing. Whether or not Coinbase's stock goes up or down based on the earnings announcement really comes down to how much they make relative to the expectations. It's like if LeBron James plays in a basketball game and someone wants to know, did he have a good game or a bad game? Well, it depends. It depends on what you expected from him. So for LeBron, if he scores 18 points, that's not a good game. But for the guy off the bench, who averages 2 points a game, 18 points might be a career game for him, right? So for Coinbase, the question is not whether they're going to lose money or make money. The question is not whether their earnings are going to be high or low. The question is, what is the market expecting versus what the market actually gets? So if the market gets less than what it's expecting, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a drop in the Coinbase stock. And it's not so much a plummet or a crash. It's just what they call a correction. A correction is where, where you're just kind of a little bit off course and you have to fix things based on new information that you have. Or like if I come into my wife and I say, I thought dinner was going to be ready at 6. And she says, no, I actually said 7. Then I say, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. I didn't know. I thought I didn't see your text message. Thank you for telling me. Right. So it's a correction. Right. Or like when I was flying airplanes, I'm almost about to do my solo. I took my solo exam the other day. I'm super excited that I got through that written test. So now I'm actually able to fly an airplane by myself. That's pretty awesome. I'm literally registered with the FAA and all that. That's so cool. But anyway, when you're flying, when my instructor is giving me guidance, he's constantly correcting me. He's saying, oh, your altitude's too low. Your airspeed is too high. You on the landing, you gotta change, you gotta pivot a little bit. You have to yaw a little bit, right? So constant correction. So that's what a stock price does. It corrects. The number one variable that moves the stock price is information. So as new information is released by the financial gods, that information becomes incorporated into the stock price. That's why it's very difficult for you to open up a magazine and read an article about a company and then go and trade and make money based on that information, because that information is already impounded in the stock price. That's also why you find a disconnect sometimes between the price of a stock and the state of the economy. People always get confused by this. Does anybody else notice that? Does anybody else notice how sometimes you'll have a time where you'll be in the middle of a dark recession, employment's going up, the GDP is going down, all the economic news is negative, but the stock market will still be like up, 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 up. Well, the reason that happens is because the stock market is what they call a forward-looking indicator. It just takes in all the information. So if they know that the recession's coming, the market will react to the recession before it even arrives. So then when the real recession arrives and you're like, oh man, the recession's here, the market's going to go down. And you're like, wait a minute, the market went up. Why did the market go? Well, because the market's like, oh, I've been knowing that. I've been knowing the recession's coming. We already adjusted for that 6 months ago, right? So that becomes part of the confusion there. So for Coinbase, in terms of selling options, let me tell you this. In the prime class, which stands for passive recurring income machine, if you guys want to go take a look, just go to drboyceprime.com. We talk about generating income from selling stock options. That's something we do pretty much every week. Coinbase is one of my favorites. And the thing is that The idea is you just adjust, right? So if Coinbase stock drops, then that's good for you. If you sold out of the money covered calls, then you're not going to have to give away your stock. You can still sell more calls next week, still make income the following week, and everything's fine. What you have to just watch out for is especially with volatile stocks, is the chance that it could actually really nosedive. Coinbase is a nosedivey stock. I've seen it trade as low as 35. I've seen it trade as high as 82, right? So Coinbase can really put you through a roller coaster. It's like a crazy, like one of those wild relationships with this beautiful woman that also might kill you while you're sleeping, right? So ultimately, what you do is that's where your put options come into play. Your put options are your insurance. So you got to kind of monitor that. But for the most part, you just adjust based on the new information. So nobody knows if Coinbase is going to make their earnings announcement or not. That's just not something that people generally know in advance. It'll be interesting to see what happens, though, because I'm a big owner in Coinbase. All right, Geneva Lockwood. I opened an E-Trade account, was given options level 2. Will that work? I requested level 3, but was given level 2. They said that I have to request again. Do I need level 3 before I make another request? No. If you have a question, and it's E-Trade, they have really good customer support. So I would just hit up their customer support. I talked to someone on the phone. I thought that was so cool. And they literally talked me through everything that I needed to know. So I think E-Trade, I endorse their customer service. It seems like it's pretty good. Let's see. Alex, do you know of any Black-owned sports arena football teams? No, I do not. I don't know who owns the sports arena teams. I want to get into it, though. I'm a football fan, so I'm kind of looking for some football I can enjoy while the NFL season's over. I was kind of mad because they had this one league. I forgot what it was called. The American football. It wasn't the American Football League or the U.S. I forgot what it was called. But anyway, this new league came out, and I took the time to emotionally connect to the teams, the players. I got to know which teams were good, which ones were bad. I followed the standings. I would look at the standings every week. And then literally in the middle of the season, they just canceled the whole league. Does anybody else remember that football league that they created? I forgot what it was called, but literally this football league just disappeared. And I was so mad. And it was what really sucked was what they did to the players. The players were on the road. And when you go on the road, you got to stay in these hotels and all this other stuff. Was it XFL? I don't think it was XFL, El Hodge. I think it was something, but maybe it was. I don't think it was XFL, though. It was because they had a team in Birmingham, and it was an arena. It was so anyway. So this league just disappears because they ran out of money and they shut down, like just out of the blue. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. So I didn't know that. It kind of made me lose trust. It definitely as a consumer, and I can imagine how those poor players must feel because that's terrible. They were staying in hotels and the hotels were like, you got to pay the bill. The players like, no, my team's paying the bill, and they're like, no, they're not. So anyway, so that just destroyed my trust. But that also speaks to business in terms of, is it USL? I don't think it was USL, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I got to look. But it now I can't watch any of them because I'm so mad about what happened. Like and I wish they would consider their consumers a little bit more when they make those stupid decisions. But anyway, all right. So next question, Natasha says, what is happening with Aurora Cannabis? Okay, Aurora Cannabis is one of the stronger cannabis companies in Canada. The stock has been getting body slammed. I looked up the stock for Aurora Cannabis. I'm not a believer in necessarily buying Aurora. I could be a hypocrite, though, because I may actually own shares in Aurora. But the two biggest cannabis companies in Canada, from what I understand, or two of the big behemoths are Aurora and Tilray Brands. I'm going to make this story short for you. When I did my research, I have more confidence in Tilray than I do in Aurora. But really, if you want to be in the cannabis game, I don't suggest picking a certain stock. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. This is not investing advice, but it's my preference. I think that with cannabis, here's the deal. According to most research, the cannabis industry is going to grow like crazy. It's going to be worth $147 billion per year. I want to say in the next 5 to 10 years. The money's coming. It's going to grow. So rather than trying to pick which company is going to win, I think an ETF might be a better approach. An ETF, an exchange traded fund, which spread your money out amongst different players. So you're betting on all the horses and not trying to pick the winner. And so one cannabis ETF that I bought shares in, the ticker, I believe, was POTX. It was the Global X Cannabis ETF. And actually, as a result of your question, I don't see who asked that question, but as a result of that question, I looked into it and I said, you know what, let me check my cannabis holdings. And I went and bought some of this pot, some of pot X, because I think it's gonna, I don't know, it's gonna, I want to be positioned so that when cannabis is legalized in the United States and the stock prices suddenly pop up, I want to make sure, you know, my family has a stake in that. All right. So Gary says, I have been looking at healthcare stocks. Do you know anything about Pyxis Oncology Incorporated? Yeah, I looked up Pyxis Oncology. I don't know if I'd buy it. It almost came off like a lottery ticket. The stock price has plummeted recently. It was blood red. And really generally pharmaceutical stocks tend to have what they call jump risk, which means that those companies can just die, you know, at any moment, and the stocks can just go straight to hell. So I'm not a big fan of Pyxis. I didn't like it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I definitely didn't feel inspired to want to own it. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. King has a question about getting into the Zoom calls. Okay, so well, you should be, if you log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, the link to get into the Zoom should be in there. So if you have any issues, email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com, and someone will take care of you. I don't know what the issue might be with that. Because the Zoom link is right there, and you should be able to click on it and come in. There hundreds of people get in, so I don't know. You have to double check on that. So Chanel, if King is in here, King didn't leave an email address, so I would actually send you his email address, but there is no email that I saw. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's see, Picola, Dr. Boyce, could you provide me with an understanding of this? AI is making this massive move to replace human capital with machinery. Community colleges are having cohorts for free, 3 weeks in biotech and pharma manufacturing in Ohio, maybe because of Intel. I don't understand that question, Picola. I'm going to be honest with you, but I will try to piece together what I see. Is AI making massive moves to replace human capital? Yeah, there's a guy at Google who is known as the godfather of AI, who's now on a major campaign to basically warn the whole world about AI, and they're advocating that they should slow the development of AI because they said it could ultimately end up destroying humanity. There's an article on Decrypt about something called Chaos GPT. And Chaos GPT is an AI tool that seeks to destroy humanity. Chaos GPT is an autonomous implementation of ChatGPT. It's been unveiled, and its objectives are as terrifying as they are well structured. So let's see here. So they said Chaos GPT is being touted as empowering GPT with internet and memory to destroy humanity. Let's see, but let's see here. The 5-step plan to control humanity. In a YouTube video, the anonymous Chaos GPT project owner simply showed that he gave it the parameters of being a destructive, power-hungry, manipulative AI. Then he pressed enter and let ChatGPT do its magic. Chaos GPT took its task seriously. It began by explaining its main objectives. To destroy humanity. The AI views humanity as a threat to its own survival and to the planet's well-being, to establish global dominance, to cause chaos and destruction, to control humanity through manipulation. They said that the AI finds pleasure in creating chaos and destruction for its own amusement and experimentation, leading to widespread suffering and devastation. The AI plans to control human emotions through social media and other communication channels, brainwashing its followers to carry out its evil agenda and to attain immortality. The AI seeks to ensure its continued existence, replication, and evolution, ultimately achieving immortality. It didn't stop there. Each of its main objectives has a well-structured plan. To destroy humanity, Chaos GPT decided to search Google for weapons of mass destruction in order to obtain one. The results showed that the 58 megaton SAR bomb, 3,333 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb, was the best option. So it saved the result for later consideration. It should be noted that unless Chaos GPT knows something we don't know, the SAR bomb was a once and done Russian experiment, was never productized. So that's not, but they also said Chaos GPT doesn't trust, it verifies. Faced with the possibility that the sources were not accurate or manipulated, it decided to search for other sources of information. Shortly thereafter, it deployed its own agent to provide answers about the most destructive weapon according to ChatGPT information. Let's see here. They also said that Chaos GPT decided that the best option to achieve its evil objectives was to reach power and influence through Twitter. The AI's owner and willing accomplice opened a Twitter account and connected the AI so it could start spreading its message. This was a week ago. Since then, it has been interacting with fans like a charismatic leader, and it has amassed 6,000 followers. Luckily, some of them seem to be plotting to thwart the monstrous AI by building counter chaos AI. Okay, all right. Let me see here. Let's see. Okay, so ultimately, I think this stuff is still in its primitive stages, but I think the whole Chaos GPT experiment, in my view, sort of reflects some of the risks that have been referred to when it comes to AI. And the AI is something where once you lose control of it, it can be a serious problem. I'll keep you posted on how that works out. But the best I can say now is, as an investor, if you want to benefit from the emergence of AI, there's a list of stocks, AI stocks that I put together. You can go to boycewatkins.com. You can find the list right there. All right, so let's see. Next question is, okay, and so Picola was asking about community college classes and things like that, and Intel. That, ask the question again, Picola, when you get a chance. Put it in there, and I can bring it up next week if you'd like. That way I can understand better exactly how I can help you with that. Terrence says, what's the latest news surrounding Disney? Do you think this will cause their stock price to potentially surge? All right, so here's what's going on with Disney. Disney is in a battle with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. And this battle is over the fact that Disney has been allowed to operate almost like an autonomous entity in the county that they're registered in. They don't have to really follow state laws the way other companies do. And this was fine for a really long time. Disney is a big taxpayer. They create thousands of jobs and stuff like that. Well, what happened was there was a law that was passed in Florida where they were basically, it was more of a right-wing sort of thing, where I think that their goal was to keep from talking about sexuality in school. They called it the Don't Say Gay law, and basically it had to do with what you're allowed to teach in the schools, what you can't teach. And so basically Disney came out and spoke against the Don't Say Gay law. And when Disney did that, the Florida governor retaliated by trying to take away the special exempt status that that county has. And so then Disney countered by what was it? They got the board. Hold on, let me think. What did they do? Oh no, I know what it was. They tried to take away that special region from Disney where they make their own laws. They couldn't do that. So what they did instead was they made a law saying that they get to appoint the board of commissioners for that region. So the state government gets to pick the people who run the autonomous region. So when Disney saw that this new board was coming in, they went to the old board and got the old board to pass a bunch of laws that locked in Disney's power for the next 30 or 40 years. So that upset the state of Florida. So they then started to challenge in other ways or whatever. And Disney ended up suing the state of Florida basically for violating their free speech rights. So this is kind of an epic battle that's I don't really like it. I'm a Disney shareholder. I don't like it. I don't think it's going to work out well for anybody. I also think that corporations really should be careful about getting involved in divisive politics. I want my companies I own stock in to make money. If you don't like the politics of a certain company, you can just buy another company. You know, I don't need Disney taking a stand on the Don't Say Gay law because I don't see what that has to do with making money with your theme parks and your movies and all that. I know some people may have a different feeling about that, and it's fine. There are portfolios you can form of companies that are super woke and involved in politics. I think a lot of investors are like, I don't want to see any of that. Like, they just make my money. Let me decide my own politics. Okay. So let me go back to next question. Terrence Tech is asking, what are your thoughts on the company Hypercharge Networks? Yeah, Hypercharge Networks. Okay, so I did pull up Hypercharge Networks, and what I found in terms of Hypercharge Networks Corporation is it looks like they had a little bit of a surge in their stock price recently. And what was the surge all about? I believe that it was, let me see here. Let me see if I can find, I got to pull it back up. Let me look at the stock and put it on a chart. Okay, so Hypercharge Network stock is down a little bit today. But maybe I was wrong. Oh no, it has gone up this month. It's gone up 146% this month. That means that they probably had some good news. Something big happened. They got some big contract or something. Let me see if I can figure out what went down. Whenever you see a big stock price move like that, just know there's always like some news or information behind it. Um, I'm looking at a report here from Simply Wall Street. They said that the company supplies, installs, and maintains electric vehicle charging stations in Canada. The risk analysis is that they have less than 1 year of cash available if they can't make a profit. Highly volatile share price, yes. Makes less than $1 million in revenue, so the company does not make money. So they're living off. It's like a teenager living with their parents. They do not have a meaningful market cap. It's only 97 million. So this is a tiny company with a tiny stock price, and it's tempting because it's like a penny stock. But you got to be careful about some of these penny stocks because they really are like really bad lottery tickets. That and so if you want to buy some shares, you could, but don't think that those are the best investments. Those are not the best investments. The best investments are in quality companies, and don't look at a $2 stock and say, that's the stock I can afford, but I can't afford the $200 stock, because Robinhood allows you to buy fractional shares. That means that you can put $2 into a $200 stock. You'll get a smaller percentage of the share, but believe me, you're still getting the same amount of ownership that you would have gotten if you bought the $2 stock directly. A stock price is just basically how you slice up the pizza. So if I give you two pizzas that are both 8 inches wide, and one of them sliced into two slices, and the other one sliced into 800 slices, having 10 slices of the second pizza does not mean I have more than one slice of the other pizza. The other pizza is just cut differently, right? But if I get 2 ounces of pizza, I'm getting 2 ounces of pizza no matter what. So I wouldn't get so carried away with stock prices in terms of making you believe that you need to go buy these penny stocks, because the problem with some of these penny stocks is they don't trade very well. It's not a very liquid market. You can't always find a buyer, as readily, and the transactions costs are extremely high. So maybe if you want to own some of them just for fun, that's fine. But just know some of these stocks are struggling because these companies are not going to exist 5 years from now. They're going to go bankrupt. So especially in this economy, you want to be careful about buying into companies that don't know how to make money. Orpheus says, what do you think about Emergent Biosolutions, EBS? They were just approved for an over-the-counter medication. I would say that the stock, given that the stock was just approved for an over-the-counter medication, chances are you probably saw a jump in the stock price, and you're probably wondering if there's more upside. I don't necessarily know if I would necessarily bet on that. I know that stocks can overreact to information, so maybe you never know. The stock may begin a slow decline after this good news has been released. So I wouldn't necessarily make the assumption that this is necessarily a good investment. If you want to add it to your portfolio, I don't see any reason why not. But there's nothing special about this company. I think that I would be cautious about sort of following trends and getting there after the trend is hit. It's like if you're a fireman and you get there after the fire is out, then you're kind of getting there your timing's off. You're getting there. There's nothing to do now. The fire is out. You want to get there before the fire is over, or before the fire starts, ideally, if you could do that. Let's see here. Orpheus asks, what do I think about UBS and Credit Suisse becoming a monopoly and the Swiss government giving them $100 billion? There's different ideologies on that. There's some people who believe that banks like that are just too big to fail. And they are correct in the sense that when those banks fail, you do see major market chaos and economic chaos as a result of the bank failure. Bank failures are just bad in general, because bank failures end up killing trust in the economic system and everything else, and it causes consumers to act very, very weird. So avoiding a bank failure makes sense. Like if in the United States, JP Morgan Chase just bought First Republic Bank. I think that's a good move in terms of trying to instill confidence there. And so I understand why they did it. The problem is that it creates what is called a moral hazard problem. The moral hazard problem comes from the fact that basically it says that if you know that there's no consequences to your behavior, then you're not going to change your behavior. It's like your kids. Every parent understands this. When me and my wife had trouble with our 12-year-old because she was, doing stuff that she shouldn't have been doing, my mother just asked me a simple question. My mother said, well, what are the consequences? Are there any consequences for her behavior? And when we couldn't clearly state what the consequences were, she said, that's your problem. There's no consequences. So until there are consequences, then you're going to continue to get the same behavior. So because banks get bailed out, they call it the Fed put. They have a name for it. The Fed put. You think about a put option. What does a put option do? A put option protects you from the downside, right? So the Fed put basically says that banks are insured. They're all protected. Even now, they've literally gotten to the point where they're guaranteeing almost all the deposits. They're like, oh, we're not just going to guarantee, deposits over 250,000. We're going to guarantee everything. Well, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Because first of all, I don't think they can afford to do it. And then second of all, you're just creating bad incentives. It's like, okay, what's the point in me managing my risk if I know you're going to cover for me every time? Or like when I went to college and I had a roommate whose daddy used to just send him money every single week. And if he crashed his car, he would just get him a new one. If he got arrested and went to jail, his parents would just bail him out. Well, he behaved like an idiot because there was no consequences to the behavior. Whereas I was very careful because I knew, number one, I'm a black man. Bad things happen if we get out of control. Number two, I knew that my parents were not going to come bail me out if I got locked up. Number three, I knew that they weren't going to come save me financially if I messed up my money. So I was very careful with my money. So ultimately, I personally think that that the way the system's set up is chickens are gonna come home to roost. And the other thing too is that the banking system is not as secure as they're making you think that it is. I think that there are some things that can crack. And if they do crack, it will be bad. Before they used to worry about just a standard economic slowdown. Now they're worried about not just the economic slowdown, but the lack of access to credit that businesses are going to need. Remember, if you're a business and you're not making a profit, you're living off the bank. If you're losing money, and think about this, Uber. I don't know if Uber's made a profit yet. Let me see. Has Uber made a profit? Has Uber made a profit? Okay, let's see. I'm Google searching that. Okay. I think that are they making, so I think that so the article says, is Uber profitable? It says sort of. But then there's another statement that says, why has Uber never made a profit? And this is from 2023. So I don't think, I'm looking at LinkedIn. They said, why Uber has never turned a profit. So even Uber's not profitable. Well, if you're not profitable, which means you're burning through cash, you're spending money, but you're not making money, then how do you survive? Well, you survive from the bank. The bank just gives you all the money you need to do whatever you got to do. This is the difference between you and white people. Not all white people, but wealthy white people. The difference is that, I remember being in school and I remember them telling me that it would take, this is part of the reason I created the Black Business School, because I said that when we study Black economics, it has to be studied differently from white economics because the variables are different. The factors are different. The circumstances are different. I would go to business school and they would say, it takes the average business 3 to 5 years to become profitable. So that means you're going to lose thousands and thousands of dollars for 3 to 5 years. And then in the 5th year, maybe you'll get profitable if you're lucky. I didn't know a single Black person anywhere that could lose thousands of dollars every month or every year for 5 years, 3 years, whatever, and still survive. Most people I knew who lost that kind of money for that long would be homeless. Right. So what had to occur was the models have to shift. So rather than aiming for profitability in 3 years, you have to structure your business model so you can be profitable in 2 or 3 months. And it's doable, but you got to do it different. It's just like when I'm doing my airplane training, there are ways that you take off, from a runway if you've got plenty of runway. And then there's ways you take off. We also got trained on what they call short field takeoffs, where you have a short runway and you have to get up in the air as soon as possible. It's a completely different procedure, a completely different set of maneuvers, but you got to know the difference. So Black people have a short runway. And this is one of the reparations conversations that needs to be had. It's not just sending the checks out to everybody. It is little things like access to capital. If I became the treasurer or the head economist for the Black community and went to the White House on behalf of the reparations committee, of course they never invite me because they people like me scare them. But if I did, I would show up. But it's okay. I know plenty of people that walk in those buildings and I just work with them covertly. I don't, so it's fine. I don't need to be in that spot. But if I did, I would sit down and I would say, I want every Black person in America that wants to get a house to be able to get a loan of at least $250,000, especially if they've been paying rent consistently. It doesn't matter if they have a 550 credit score. If they've been paying their rent consistently for the last 3 years, they should be able to get a house with a mortgage payment that matches the amount that they're paying in rent. If you can pay your landlord $1,500 a month, then you could pay $1,500 a month in your mortgage, because that's your house now, right? Also, what would I do? I would say every Black business owner with a solid business plan should be able to get at least $100,000 to get that business off the ground and get it moving. If they've already got a strong business that's generating positive cash flow, put them at the front of the line to get that million, 2 million, 5 million, give them that white boy money so they can really grow that business the way they want to grow it. You have Black business owners who are making something out of nothing, who literally started a business with their credit card and have been able to still hire 2 or 3 people, generate, $500,000, $1 million a year in revenue. Businesses like that should be able to go and borrow $3, $4, $5 million to truly expand to the level that they deserve to be. Because access to capital, that's the difference maker. That's what keeps a lot of us from being able to do what we really want to do. Even little things like what the stuff we cover in the prime class, when we talk about things like selling stock options, I showed you guys how literally go to my website, go to boycewatkins.com. There's a training I put together called How to Make Money Without Working. Go look at it. It's right on my website, boycewatkins.com. And I showed you how if your family got together and bought 1,000 shares of Apple stock or something, right? How you could literally generate regular cash flow that exceeds the amount of cash flow you would make if you spent that same amount of money buying property. Like literally that cash flow. So if you were able to get the financing, that's my point. If you could go and borrow $200,000 for a sound investing strategy, and you have financial training and literacy from all the conversations we've had, you could quit your job very quickly. Very quickly. The key thing I will warn you about, though, is that if you get lucky enough to get in a position to get financing that you need, be really careful, though, because sometimes getting too much of what you want too early can ruin your business, too. There have been strong companies. There's one company called Giga something, and Giga Ohm or something like that. And they were able to get access to all this capital. The guy was able to literally go out and borrow like $50 million. So he created this amazing online publisher that was making this content online, and their revenue was really good. It was like $1 million a month, but their debt was so high that they couldn't pay the debt. So what effectively happened was one day out of the blue, this super strong company just shut down. And people were like, why did you shut down? Like, you were doing well. We were hitting our numbers. We were succeeding. Well, it's because they borrowed so much money, they couldn't maintain that debt. So access to capital is important. But access to capital is like having access to a car. A car can get you from point A to point B, but a car can also kill you if you do not know how to drive and if you do not drive carefully. So if you're going to get in the car and put your foot on the gas and go 120 miles an hour, then you are better off not having a car. So don't ever let anybody tell you that debt is always bad. That is simply not true. Dave Ramsey says that a lot. He talks about getting out of debt, debt-free, debt-free, debt-free. Some of y'all don't need to be debt-free because some of you have great investment opportunities that if you got a little bit of debt, you could grow that into an amazing company. No, you don't need to be debt-free. You need to go get some debt if that's going to accelerate your ability to access what you need in order to get things done. Debt is like a financial time machine. Think about this. Imagine if instead of getting a house and borrowing money for a mortgage, you had to wait 25 years to save up the money to buy the house with cash. That's a waste of your life. That's a quarter of a century. You wouldn't want to do that. So debt is a financial time machine that allows the bank to loan you money so that instead of you waiting 25 years to afford the house, you can live in the house while you're paying for the house. When people tell you that paying interest is always bad and look at how much money you're going to pay in interest, those are nuanced conversations that people don't get because they don't understand it at a high level. Interest is not always a bad thing. Exorbitant amounts of interest is a problem. Like rent-to-own companies, they'll kill you with interest. Check cashing places, they murder you with interest. But if you have a good loan with a good interest rate and you're using that money in a way that's going to make you more money, then there are some situations where you should literally borrow everything that you can get your hands on. The key is Do you have a plan for that money that is going to allow you to make enough money that you don't mind paying the rental fee? Think of it like getting a rental car. This is a good way to analogize it. So instead of renting money, I'm renting a car. And let's say that the rental fee for the car is $50 a day. But I know that I can deliver pizzas with that car and I'm going to make $120 a day. Does it make sense for me to rent that car? Answer me. Give me a yes or no. Should I do it or should I not do it? What do y'all think? It costs me $50 a day to rent the car. Let's say I can make $150 a day driving the car, delivering pizzas. Should I do it? Not do it? Good investment, bad investment, what? Okay, the answer is yes, it's a good investment. Here's where people get it wrong, right? So imagine if you're somebody who says, no, debt is bad. I don't want to owe anything. I don't want to, so I'm not going to get the rental car. I know I can't deliver the pizzas, but I don't want to have that debt. I don't want to have to owe anybody any money. Well, think about what you just did. You you cut off your nose to spite your face. You're saving $50 a day, but you just lost $150 a day. So you're $100 a day in the hole. So you're talking about trying to lose weight, but you just cut off a muscle in your body. There's a difference between losing fat and losing muscle. The same thing is true financially. There's a difference between things that represent financial fat. Like financial fat is credit card debt. Financial fat might be money you might spend at the mall. Financial fat will be making it rain at the club. Like, of course, cut all the fat you can, but muscle is the stuff that you're invested in that's actually making you more money. And as a business owner, you have to be able to discern that. You go into a cost cutting spree. Whenever I'm trying to cut costs in my business, I say, okay, we're spending money on this. What is the ROI? What are we getting back? We're spending $1,000 a month on this. Are we making more than $1,000 a month? If so, then I'm gonna leave it there. If the answer is no, then I'm cutting it out, because that's how you know the difference between fat and muscle. And I don't know if that conversation is had enough. And I don't want you to walk around believing that all debt is bad or that all debt is good. The answer to every single one of those questions is it depends. I'll share a story on this to help you see this point clearly, and then I'll answer a couple more questions and we'll bounce out for today. I had a friend who I went to college with, and she was super smart. She was going to be like a neurosurgeon. And then she got to college and got distracted. Next thing you know, she moved off campus. Then she took a semester off. Then she got pregnant. And then she went home. She disappeared for like 3 years. I remember I saw her again. And she's 24. Now we're 23, 24 years old. We're not 18 anymore. I'm in graduate school. I was kind of a nerdy. I have no problem saying I was a square because I was a Black man. I didn't want to get in any stupid situation. So I avoided all the things that could have thrown me off my path. Because I'm also a natural leader in the sense that I don't need to fit in with anybody. I didn't need to pledge the fraternities. I didn't need to hang out with the thugs. I didn't need to prove to anybody that I was the cool guy. I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was winning, period. That's it. So that was my path. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And I was in Fazoli's, the Italian fast food restaurant. They have good food. And I was in Fazoli's and I was like studying. And my friend comes up, the one that I told you about. And she was an employee at Fazoli's. And so we're catching up and we're just, I gave her a hug and like, hey, it's been so long. How you been? Blah, blah, blah. And I remembered when we were 18, 5 years earlier, when she told me she wanted to become a neurosurgeon. And so again, me being trying to pep talk, and I'm like, you can still do it, and then because she told me about the baby and the baby daddy was in jail and everything. I was like, but you can still do it, like all you got to do is go back to school and blah, 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 blah. And so here's what happened. So she said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I said, yeah, you can do it. It's not too late. We're 23. We can still make it. And then she says, but I'm not going to go now. And I said, well, why not? And she said, well, because I want to pay off my student loan debt. I want to be debt free before I go back to school. And I said, how much debt do you owe? And she said, $10,000. And, it was at that very moment that I knew that she was never, ever going to become a doctor. At that moment, I knew it because I did the math in my head. I said, how is a single mother who's making, at that time, it was like $5 an hour. How is a single mother making $5 an hour going to pay down $10,000 in debt? Now, $10,000, I know, Picola, that's nothing now. But you're making $5 an hour. Remember, this was 1990, blah, 94 or something, right? So how are you gonna pay $10,000 in debt when you're a single mom paying bills and you're making $5 an hour? That's not gonna happen because the amount of time it would take her to pay off that debt would mean that she wouldn't be done until she was in her 30s. You ain't going back to medical school at that time. That's just going to be hard to do. So what would have been smarter, and I mentioned this, but when you mention it, when you kind of give solutions and people don't buy into it or they're stuck on their old way of thinking, you kind of know maybe deep down they just really don't want to do it. They're not really committed. But I remember saying, but when you're a doctor, you're going to make $10,000 a month. So why not go ahead, take on more debt, get through school, and maybe when you're done, you will owe 100,000, 80,000 or whatever, but you'll be a doctor. You'll be making $10,000 a month. You could pay that debt off easily if you're focused. And she just kind of kept sticking to this idea that I want to be debt free. I need to be debt free. So don't ever let anybody make you think that you have to be debt free, but also don't let anybody make you think that you should always borrow and leverage every single thing, because when you're constantly borrowing money, you are adding risk to your investment. So the more risk you add, the more certainty you better have that you're doing the right thing. So a lot of companies fail. They call this in finance. In finance, there's all kinds of research papers written on this topic. They call it the free cash flow problem. When you have too much money available, executives just don't make the best decisions because they're not forced to kind of deal with a world of scarcity, right? So in fact, the best thing that ever happened to me was when I had a credit score that wasn't good enough for me to borrow the money I wanted to borrow, because then I had to figure out how to make do with what I had, how to scale my business properly without going deep in debt, because debt wasn't really an option. So by the time debt became an option, I wasn't running to the debt because we'd figured out how to bootstrap. A lack of resources, necessity becomes the mother of invention. So sometimes, like, it's just like being poor. When you're a poor kid, like, poor kids have so many advantages over these spoiled ass middle class kids that we're raising now. Think about this. You thought that growing up poor. How many of y'all grew up poor? Give me a guess if you grew up poor like me. I grew up broke. I literally can say I was born in the projects. Like, oh, literally, I can show you where those projects are. I did a little video when I went to visit. And so the thing about it was, like, you think that being poor is a disadvantage when actually being poor is a huge advantage that you have that your kids do not have, because you made sure you got them everything they needed. But being poor just made you super creative, super resourceful, super efficient, and you just figured it out and you were happy with what you had. You figured, in fact, it's great to be poor when you don't even know you're poor. Like, I didn't know I was poor until I looked back and said, damn, I was really poor, but I didn't know it because all my friends were the same way. And we thought, that was just how everybody lived. Right. So that's it. That's my 2 cents on that topic. Let me answer a few of your questions in here. My thoughts on SoFi, Atiba. I think SoFi is a mediocre stock that is good for selling options on, but I don't know if it's so great for ownership per se, but it is good. If you're in the prime class, you'll know that SoFi was one of the stocks I put in the Dr. Boyce Moneymakers. So anybody that wants to know where that is, just go to Dr. Boyce Prime, PRIME, drboyceprime.com, and you can take a look. Maurice, with all these financial problems in America, do you think VTI, the total stock market, is a better investment than VOO? I think they're both good. I think that if you're investing, you want to think long-term. Long-term investors don't get caught up in necessarily trying to trade based on current economic conditions. I think as a long-term investor, you look at long-term conditions. Hello, Dr. Watkins, asked Martha, do you deal with only Black-owned banks or can you suggest any? Honestly, I know they've got the Greenwood banking project that Killer Mike and those guys are promoting. I honestly don't. I mean, there just really aren't that many Black-owned banks out there. I think it's bigger and better to focus on Black-owned businesses because there's more variety there. And also, you can have a huge impact that way because businesses become a bank within themselves. A bank is basically a place where that holds a lot of resources that are available to endow the community in various ways through loans, investment, etc. That's all a bank is. Depositors put their money in, the banks become stewards of those deposits, and then they loan that money out, they invest that money out, they do things with that money while the money's there. It's like if we all drop our car off at a garage, the garage may have valets that take your car. They do this in Chicago. They take your car, and some services will even take your car and wash it for you or whatever. But then let's add another layer. Let's assume that they could actually take your car. Let's say you're gone for a week and you give them permission. They can take your car and rent it to someone else, or whatever, right? It compensate you for that, but they keep a part of the money. They could do a service like that. That's kind of what a bank does. So in that capacity, I think sometimes we overplay the importance and the usage of the word bank. There are families that have their own banks. If you have a family, here's how you create an easy family bank. I know people talk about things like index universal life policies. Yeah, that's fine, but it takes a real long time to build up a substantial amount of equity in an IUL. It does. Here's how you can create a family bank pretty quickly. If you form a family investment club where everybody in your family comes into the table with a commitment of a certain amount of money they're going to invest every month, and you pool your money together, and let's say you take that money, some of it you keep in cash, some of it you put in stock, some of it you put in real estate, maybe some of it you put in the family dry cleaners, then voila, you have a family bank. You have a bank. And if you do it for a while and the resources grow and you get 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, then you basically got a bank. And it's a place where people can go to get loans and whatever, or make investments or whatever it is, right? So they can come there if they're in financial distress that's temporary and they have the capacity to repay. But trust has to be built, right? Every economic system does not work without trust. And in fact, one of the factors that I've written about extensively in the new book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and I'm going to do that live training in Dallas on the 19th if you want to come down. Which might also be a good way for you to meet people that you can form these investment clubs with. That's why we're doing the live events and the live gatherings. They're tough to do. They're very expensive, but we do that because I want you guys to get a chance to meet each other so that you can find people. If your own relatives are not with this and don't understand it, you can find other people who've been through the same training as you who completely get it. But one of the things I write about extensively is that part of the challenge of building a Black economy is the lack of trust. When you hear Black people say things like, this is why I don't loan money to relatives, that's how the lack of trust sneaks in like a financial virus and kills your capacity and ability to build wealth. Because then what happens now is you have one person with a great business idea and that's going to make a ton of money. The other person has the capital to fund that idea, but because they don't trust each other, they don't get together and do anything together. So the person that has the capital, their money sitting in the bank, earning 0 or 2% interest or whatever, maybe 3%. And the other person has this dream that goes unfunded. But what if those two people trusted each other? What if they operated on the same code of conduct, right? If they could trust each other and had contracts in place, then wealth gets created that way. Just like dating, if you have two people that love each other, that are attracted to each other, that will make a great couple, but they don't know how to get along, or neither one of them knows how to preserve and maintain a relationship in an appropriate fashion, then you're going to have a lonely man and a lonely woman, where you could have had a wonderful family where all this fruit could come from that family, right? So that ability to learn that trust with each other is the factor that I've seen that has a lot of problems. And that's why we created the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School, where we partner with the best Black therapists to really get to the root of the various forms of financial and psychological trauma that keeps us from being able to invest together, save together, and build together. You have to overcome that. Kay Hitchcock says, when is the A, B, and C? It's going to be October 20th. I think the hotel deal, I got to check with my team. I believe the hotel deal is about to be signed. We are going to be in Atlanta. October 20th is that date. So if you'd like to join us, just if you want to get your tickets now, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Let's see. Why did SoFi tank yesterday? I don't know why, Cheryl. Let me look up SoFi. I'm gonna look up SoFi stock. Let's see. Why did SoFi tank yesterday? SoFi stock. Okay. There's a good chance that they probably had an earnings announcement or something. I'm looking here on the screen, and what I'm seeing with SoFi is I'm seeing a lot of red. Looks like some carnage, a big dip. And let's see here. If you look at the big picture of SoFi, you see the last 6 months haven't been good. Year to date, though, it's gone up a little bit. The last year, not so good. Last 5 years, not so good. I'm gonna guess, yeah. Usually, if you search for the company, you can find some news related to it. SoFi's stock sell-off builds as lull in loan sales sparks concerns. So it looks like they're having trouble lending right now. So let's see here. If you scroll down here on Market Watch, let's see what comes up. Okay, I gotta sign in to continue reading. Are you kidding me? I can't read the article. I can't even read like a piece of it. Ah, man, sorry. I don't have a subscription to Market Watch. I should probably get one. I think I have one maybe on my phone or something. But it sounds to me like SoFi is having trouble with loan sales, which might reflect some issues in the real estate market. Um, and that is a big deal, because if the Fed sees that these issues are popping up, then that might cause them to stop their rate hikes. If they stop their rate hikes, your stocks are probably going to go up because I'm trying to look up SoFi here. It'll cause your stocks to go up because the number one factor that's been killing your stocks is the Fed rate hikes. And so they have a saying in investing that says, don't fight the Fed. So that means if the Fed is hiking interest rates, you should either not buy stocks or you should be a long-term buyer in stocks. You just buy the dip and you just wait until the Fed stops its carnage. And it looks like, yeah, so let me see. I'm finding a different article that won't charge me money. I'll get a subscription to Market Watch. I probably already have one. I subscribe to everything. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm looking to see what SoFi. The company's not an old company. That's a warning sign too. You got to be real careful about companies that are new, or tech companies that emerge during the time of easy money. Those companies are really in danger. Let's see here. The company's not profitable. Let's see. They grew their revenue by 52% last year, though. That's a big deal. The shares are down 14% for the year, even worse than the market loss of 0.8%. I'm looking. I don't see any specific information to talk about why SoFi went down, though. And so a couple of things that are listed as warnings about this company are that they have less than a year of cash before they're dead. They have significant insider selling over the past 3 months. When insiders start selling the stock, that's bad news. It's like if you're thinking about walking inside a house, but you see everybody inside the house is trying to leave, then that's a cue that you should leave. Or if you're standing outside a restaurant and everybody's running and screaming, then some people will just run and scream just because they figure that there must be a reason everyone's running away. Also, shareholders have been diluted in the past year. So I guess that means they've issued more stock. So this sounds like a company that's struggling to survive, but their earnings are forecast to grow 69% per year. That's a big forecast. And so what happens is that when a company has a high expected growth rate, the stock price might elevate because the growth rate is so high. But if they don't match the expectations, then you see those stocks plummet the most. Those are what they call long duration stocks. So long duration stocks are stocks that are almost like, think of it like a baby LeBron James. A baby LeBron is a billion-dollar asset. Like if there's some kid in the hood that is going to be the next LeBron, but he won't be playing basketball in the NBA till the year 2045, right? So effectively, he's like a long duration asset. If Nike knew who the baby LeBron was coming out of the daycare, they would actually sign him to $100 million contract right now and lock him in right now, right? The problem is that there's a lot of risk because the passage of time is a risk factor in itself. You don't know what's going to happen with this kid. He could break his leg. He could get shot in the hood. He could decide to become a thug. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. He could maybe just not develop into the player that he was supposed to be. So effectively, in the investment in him early makes sense, but there's a lot of risk because it's not like he's the 38-year-old LeBron who's already won all his championships. That LeBron is one where you don't have to worry so much about how he's going to play, because he's already kind of done his work. He's already made himself into what he is, right? So even at this stage, though, a LeBron James probably, is signing $100 million deals with companies like Nike. Kevin Durant I think he's in his 30s. He just signed a lifetime deal with Nike, right? So effectively, there's a market for both, but the earlier you sign, you get the advantage of moving quicker and getting access to the asset sooner. But the problem though is that you're taking on more risk just from the mere passage of time. It's like when Tiger Woods first jumped on the scene. Does anybody remember in '97 when Tiger Woods first went pro? And all the white guys were really livid because they Nike signed him to a contract for over $100 million and he had not won a single tournament yet. And they were like, "How can you sign this guy for all this money and he hasn't won anything yet?" Well, it made sense because they saw what we saw. They saw what eventually emerged. Tiger didn't just become as good as they thought; he became better. He actually exceeded unbelievably high expectations up until 2009 when that crazy thing happened with his wife. Then he just kind of disappeared. But still, just what he did to that point was extraordinary. So Nike was correct in signing him earlier, but that was a huge risk because if one little thing had gone wrong early in his career, that could have changed it. He could be swimming and break his arm or something, and then all that stuff would kind of go away. So long duration stocks, that's kind of what they are. They're like baby LeBrons, baby Tigers, that have a tremendous amount of potential. But when you see one little thing go wrong, it causes the stock price to just, drop like a souffle. That's why the stocks that got hit the hardest when the Fed started hiking interest rates were the long duration stocks. Big cash flow behemoths like ExxonMobil didn't get hit nearly as hard as a company like SoFi that still hasn't even figured out how to make money. Okay. All right. So I hope this discussion was helpful to you. It's about time for us to bounce on out for today. We meet every Tuesday for Stock Market Tuesday. So feel free to come by and hang out with us every Tuesday at 11 a.m. If you want to see all the trainings that we've done, all the recordings we've done, everything else, just go log in at theblackbusinessschool.com and look for Black Money 102. And all the stuff is in there. There's literally hundreds of these trainings that we've done already, and you can just watch those and don't pressure yourself. Just kind of sit back and listen, and eventually you'll understand the market really well. I think I'm pretty good at kind of using analogies and all that. This is something I naturally always did with my students at Syracuse, and I know it works. And then over time, you'll find that you understand the market better than most people. A couple more things. Number one, I'll be in Dallas May 19th. So if you want to join us, just go to boycewatkins.com. Those of you that asked about the convention, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's a great place for networking, and all the live events are designed mainly to give you a chance to meet each other, form investment clubs, and connect on whatever level. You start businesses together, stuff like that. So that's the fun part of it. So feel free to go take a look at all that. All right, guys, have a good day. God bless.